Good morning. How's everyone doing? Great. Thank you so much for coming to the session. My name is Laura Scott. I work for the Department of Agriculture in DC. I work for one of the agencies of USDA called the Food Safety and Inspection Service. So just as the FDA regulates most food products that you eat, we regulate meat products. So if you guys eat meat, we try to make sure that it is safe for you. So I am a web content manager. I work in the Office of Public Affairs at the Food Safety Inspection Service. So today I'm going to be talking about a content audit that we've been doing on our website for quite a while now. So I'll try to explain what we've been doing, kind of the basics of content auditing, and maybe give some feedback on lessons that I've learned. I would also love to hear any questions you guys have, and if you have any kind of feedback for me or any of your own experiences you want to share, I'll definitely try to leave some time at the end so we can kind of have a group discussion. I really like that. Also, I do have some prizes to give away at the end. If any of you listened to me talk last year, I gave out a bunch of goodies, so I brought some stuff for you. So you get a prize for coming to my session. Yay, thank you. Okay, so what is a content audit? We have a very large website, so essentially we just wanted to do a full review of every single piece of content that we have on the website. So in the audit, you will be able to have all of the content cataloged in one place so you can really get a good overview of everything that you have. It's a very long process. Like I said, we more or less initiated this project about 2 years ago, and that is starting with literally just getting leadership on board with it and starting to communicate out throughout the agency that this is something we're going to be doing and we're going to need your help with it. Going through step by step, it's not the most exciting project to do. You probably have your main other projects that you're working on and you have to try to fit this in, so it is a very large undertaking and it's probably going to be a very long-term thing if you have a large website. I added the note that if you are hiring a contractor to maybe redesign your website for you, they can probably do this for you. But we did think that it was really important for us to get a good understanding of what we have on our website. We're pretty much a new web team. The people who created the website, they worked with the agency for 30 years, as happens a lot with government. They retired, and now we have essentially a new team in, and we just needed to wrap our heads around what this large website has on it, what changes we need to make, what do we have written on there? Are things really outdated? So this was a really good project to at least get started on and get those conversations going. So why do it? Why would you want to do a content audit? Aside from what I just said, you obviously have these little bullets that explain to you why it is so beneficial. And I think that, you know, us as mostly web managers in here, we kind of understand this, but it's nice to have things laid out when you want to explain to your stakeholders, your subject matter experts, leadership, why this matters. If you can ever say this is going to save money, obviously that's going to get people behind you. So it will improve user experience, help you improve navigation, help with your search engine optimization. It will reduce, I say, migration costs. That was a big push for us. If hopefully in the near future, if we're going to want to migrate to a new platform and be redesigning our website, why would we migrate over 10,000 URLs when we could cut out a lot of those and just migrate over, you know, a fraction of that? So we're saying it can help you reduce your migration costs. It'll help you reduce your clutter and risk of potential PR issues. What if you have something written in a news release on your website that was posted back in, you know, the year 2000, and maybe it says something that's conflicting, something that is more current news? You just kind of want to be able to make sure that everything is up to date on your website. And it will account for all of the content. You'll be able to have a master list of everything that your content holds. And this will allow you to see what is not on your website, what gaps are there, what else you can create, and be able to plan for the future accordingly. So you are going to compile all of the content on your website. So these are just the HTML pages, all your blog posts, any videos, audio files, images, PDFs, as we love to talk about in this conference, PDFs. any type of content that you have. You'll compile this all in one place. You can organize them according to the type of content that it is or the topic. Really, your content audit should really be customized to exactly what you need in your agency. So just a few basics overview of content audits. They say you should do one about every year. Of course, I said that we've been working on ours for about 2 years. So I think the goal here would be, at least for us, once we get through this very first one, then we should kind of set up a retention plan so that the content will be continuously reviewed, and then about every year we should just check in and make sure that it has been reviewed. Content audits will expose the poor quality content, if there is any. It will make sure that there is a purpose for each piece of content and that it's not just something that was put up because we said, hey, maybe we should put this on the website, because that happens all the time. And it can help you identify duplicate content that could be consolidated. Okay, so again, how do you know if your website needs a content audit? You can think about how old your website is. If it is a new website, you hopefully shouldn't need one because you should have essentially probably really done that when you created your website, but it really wouldn't hurt to just kind of compile all of your content, organize it, and have a master list that you can use for organizational purposes. With our website, the last redesign was in 2013. However, it does seem that most of the content had just been migrated over from the previous website, so we have content going back into the 90s. So you can say our website is only as old as 2013, but really it seems much older than that. Do you know what your website says? There may be content on our website for sure that we weren't really aware of. It's been around for years. So doing the content audit will help you just make sure you're really aware of everything that is on your website. When is your next redesign? So if you have a redesign coming up, as we are looking at doing as well, it's really helpful to do the content audit, completely understand what is there, and then understand what you want to migrate over. So again, piece of advice, every year to year and a half, you should probably be reviewing your content. So like I mentioned, our website was last redesigned in 2013. So we currently have, I put 8,000 plus web pages, but it's a little bit closer to 9,000. And that is only the HTML web pages. That doesn't account for PDFs or any other files that we also need to be reviewing. So we have a good amount of content on there. And we like to say that it's called the agency's filing cabinet because that really essentially is what it has been for a lot of pieces of content. You just stash it away, and it has kind of been like looking at a timeline of the agency. If you look at press releases or other, types of maybe policy descriptions, you can see the changes back from, 90s, 2000s to today. So we're really looking at how to improve our website, improve customer experience. Like I said, we're a new web team essentially, so we are just looking to completely revamp. So as I said, we refer to it as occasionally the agency filing cabinet. So here are a few examples. As I said, we regulate the meat industry, so all meat foods. So anytime there is a product recall, we put out a press release describing the food that was recalled. So we have food product recall press releases listed on our website going back to 1994 to the present. So there are a lot of press releases. So it's about 2,000 URLs just in food product recall press releases alone. And it's really interesting, as I said, to look back at the press releases from 1994 to today. So you come across some issues when you look at them. First of all, branding issues. As you can see in the image there, it says FSIS in that left-hand picture in kind of an old logo that we definitely don't use anymore. Kind of need to make sure we wipe those out. Just the formats are written differently, and you kind of want to question if we need to have all that information still on the website. I have heard, however, a presentation that a researcher was giving, and she was very happy that she could find all recall information on our website going back that far because it made her research very easy. So you do need to kind of weigh the pros and cons of taking off older information on your website if you're going to. It may increase the amount of Freedom of Information Act requests that your agency receives if you're removing older content. So there are pros and cons. We additionally have constituent newsletters that we post weekly that have been on the website. We have all of them listed on the website from 2001 up to the present. So those take up 1,300 URLs, and since they're newsletters and they're talking about current information at the time, you definitely can have broken links in those older press releases and just outdated information. So if you are working with subject matter experts and trying to convince them that, hey, we probably want to be removing these older things, these are some issues that you can bring up to them to try to justify why you want to clean up the website in that way. So as we on our web team have been looking at content auditing and kind of how we can improve the website and what we should be doing and how do we get support for it, luckily at the department level of USDA, web modernization has become a huge topic of conversation and a big priority. So there has now been a lot of talk about the 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience Act, the IDEA Act. So this is all about web modernization, and now there is a big push from the top down to get us to modernize all of our websites across the department, which is great news for us because then we get the entire agency to support us in what we need. And this is great because we really need leadership to be supporting us, the subject matter experts who help us pretty much provide all the content, and stakeholders. So as looking forward to modernizing our website, and if we're going to migrate to possibly a new platform, doing any redesign, this is what we have in mind for getting ready now beforehand. We want to improve the current content that we have. We want to delete any redundant, outdated, or trivial information, and we want to look at reducing our migration costs. So subject matter experts' participation is key in this. We really want to not just go in and tell them, we're taking your content down, we're changing your content. We really want to respect the relationship that we have with them and respect their expertise. They are the experts. So I think that dipping your toe into the content audit with them, making them really informed about everything before you start making decisions is really important. You want to set goals when you are going into your content audit. So as I said, it should be very custom to what you need. I think for us, a big thing that we need is reducing migration costs. We have almost 9,000 URLs, so if we are going to be paying a contractor to be migrating this for us, we know we don't need all of those. So that's a big push for us. And then, of course, cleaning up your website in general can be one of your goals, reducing clutter, just taking inventory, whatever you specifically need. So as part of getting started, you definitely want to take note of the sort of metrics that are specific for your needs. And this will be good to set your baseline, so then a year or so down in the future, you can be able to come up with some progress reports, create reports to turn into your supervisors, your agency, and say, look how much we've improved the customer experience for the agency. So once you know what you want to do, you need to compile all of the URLs. So I know that there are some online tools you can use to help to pull all the URLs from your website and come out with a nice long list. I actually had one of the developers on our staff was able to pull the list for us. So I ended up with a long spreadsheet of almost 9,000 URLs, and it is a little overwhelming at first. So what I just started doing was dividing it out into sections, and I would just do it according to the topic and put it in separate tabs and just be able to get a grasp of what I'm looking at. So you can organize it in a way that makes sense for you. You can organize it by topic or by file type, all PDFs in one tab, all just HTML pages in another, or whatever makes sense for you. Almost 9,000 URLs that we pulled were only the HTML pages. So what our idea was is that we would look through each page of content individually, and then any PDFs or other file types linked within them, they would just be reviewed along with that page. So we didn't pull all the URLs of all the PDFs. Then you want to create your own custom spreadsheet. There are a lot of different ways you can do this. These are just some examples of the headers that you can put on your spreadsheet, and it really depends on who the audience of the spreadsheet is. That will help you determine what you want the titles to be. So I'll show you an example in a second of the one that I used, but these are just some that I've seen. So first you could list the title of the page, the URL, the content owner, a short description, maybe, maybe not. Again, it depends, are the people that are going to be reviewing the spreadsheet very particularly tech savvy, or do you think that they're going to look at a list of URLs, get overwhelmed, and not really know to click through to them to see what they're looking at? It might be helpful to list the title and a description for them. You definitely want to list some sort of metrics for the page. This is instrumental in deciding what you need to do with that piece of content. If nobody's looking at it, if it's got no hits, then you're probably going to want to push to make some sort of change to that page. You can obviously see which are the more important pieces of content, and then that is really important for the subject matter expert to see as well. Because if you are going to say, I think we need to delete 1,000 of these pages, they're probably attached to their content, and they're probably not going to want to just let it go. But if you can show the metrics saying, I'm sorry, but no one's really using it, maybe we can write a different page, or, you know, these just need to go away. The metrics are really going to help you there. So there are many other headers you can use. Content hierarchy, you can list if there's any rot, redundant, outdated, or trivial information. Again, listing more the file type, if there's a persona for this piece of content, any keywords, date of last update, that can be very helpful. And if you just want to sort by the oldest updated content, maybe that's good to decide when you can come up with a cutoff. List the categories, word count, and then I put web team recommendation at the end. That is something that we've been using, which I will explain in just a minute. So once you pull all your metrics, as I said, you're going to want to identify the low traffic pages, the high traffic pages, and then you can recommend from there to your subject matter experts, hey, we need to delete or consolidate the low traffic pages, keep or rewrite the high traffic pages. Okay, so for each piece of content, you're going to want to decide which action is going to be taken. So on the spreadsheets that I created, which I gave out to the subject matter experts, I just made it simple, and I said there are 4 options for each piece of content that you review. The first one is you can just mark it as keep. This is good content, we need it, still relevant, just keep it as it is. Rewrite, good, but probably needs to be edited, updated in some way, and this is something that we'll address in the future, but this is our plan for now. We'll rewrite it. Consolidate, maybe you could just merge this content into another page, or delete. Pretty simple. We no longer need this content. So this is an example of the spreadsheet that I created custom for what we needed. It may be a little hard to read up there, apologize for that. But so what I did in the first column is I just put the URLs and I sectioned them off by topic, and I also kind of color coded it a little bit, which doesn't show up there, apologies. So it's a light green and a light purple color, just so you can really tell the difference between the sections. So I did that because I'm sending the spreadsheet out to subject matter experts who I know I'm just not sure their level of kind of tech savviness, or if they will be really ready for what I'm sending them. So I sectioned it off by topic. So at the top you see 4 employees, and then I have 2 URLs below that which link to 2 pages that are in our 4 employees section in the About Us section. So I have those 2 URLs, and up at the top I put kind of instructions for them on what to do. I said links to review, please copy and paste this into a browser just in case the hyperlinks weren't clickable and I didn't want them to get confused, please copy and paste this into a browser and review this page for everything accuracy and review all the PDFs linked on this page, give it a full review for accuracy, typos, etc. Then I listed the page views for each page, and in the third column, a web team recommendation. So me or someone else on my team would review the page first, and we would give an idea to them of what we wanted to happen to the page, but again, we definitely don't want to jump in and tell them what we are going to do. We just want to give them our opinion and kind of hope that we're on the same page with it. So we would either write, review this, delete this, keep this, consolidate this, and sometimes give a little bit more explanation or put in questions. Like if there are certain data sets that are being updated, but we see that they stopped updating them in 2016, we might write, please review this. Also, are we going to continue to post on this? Has this been discontinued? You know, does this need to still stay on the website? Give us more information about the future of this piece of content. And then in the next column, I actually just created drop-down options. So I told you that I gave them 4 options of what they could do: keep, rewrite, consolidate, or delete. So I thought it might get really complicated if they could just write in whatever they wanted. So I made it so that they would just click drop down and choose from one of those 4. And then they could leave comments if they wanted to, and sometimes we got really useful feedback saying, you know, this page we just need to rewrite specifically this part, and they might rewrite a paragraph and stick it in there for us. So then we could just make that update right away. I also included name of approving supervisor, which, you know, in some cases we needed to have a supervisor review, in other cases we didn't. Are there any questions on this specifically before I move on while we still have it up? I know, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, so in the first I said links to review, and I just put a little kind of instructions in there. Okay. Second is page views. Put any kind of metrics you want to put in there. I used page views. The third is web team recommendation. Fourth is, what do you want to do with this content? So that's where they would pick from one of the 4 options in the drop-down. Keep, delete, consolidate, rewrite. Thank you. And then a section for comments, optional, and the last one was name of approving supervisor. Yeah?
How long did it take you to compile this?
A very long time. So we had about 9,000 URLs, so it's very daunting, and whoops, my finger slipped. Yes, we had about 9,000 URLs, so just took it section by section. And the original plan that kind of my supervisor and I came up with is that we would send out small chunks every week to the subject matter experts. So you definitely, I learned that I think I was sending them too large of chunks every week, because then it was a little overwhelming for everybody. But yeah, actually at first I wasn't even pulling page views because we just have so many URLs to go through. It's like, let's just put this in a spreadsheet, let me figure out what category this goes into, and then I'll send it out to the subject matter expert, and then we'll talk about it from there. But because there are so many URLs, I just didn't know if it would be feasible to go through and pick the metrics for each page. So after I sent out a few rounds of the spreadsheets to the SMEs, and they came back with kind of questions like, well, how are we supposed to know what we should do with this? I mean, can you send us some metrics? I said, yes, definitely send you some metrics. So then we just started adding them in standard and to give us something to start off of. So yeah, it definitely took a very long time.
How many would you send at a time? What would you recommend?
So I'll kind of get into some more of that in a second, but it depends on the type of content, essentially. Some of them need a lot more meticulous care to go through. Others are essentially the same page, but going back to the 90s. So then you can just say, when's our cutoff? Did you have a question?
Yes. Did you set a certain date for content in audit, in auditing the content in terms of we're only going to audit content that was posted before this date? Because you would hope that the newer content would be good to go and relevant and current. but sometimes it's not, or you don't like that stuff you posted a month ago. You know, did you include that stuff? Did you keep up with the day-to-day, or are you just like, we're just gonna do everything from 2018 and past that and worry about 2019 later?
We pretty much did everything, depending on the type of content, though. So, yes, I think I'll move forward a little bit, and that might answer some of your questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely love questions, so raise your hand if you have them. So yes, the SMEs are instrumental in helping us review the content. A lot of the content on our website is scientific data or scientific information that really we need the SME to at least give us the content to start with, and then we can help go over it with them. Or it's policy, in which we may not have a lot of wiggle room in what changes we can make to it. So we need to work very closely with them. I think it's really important to make them know that they are respected in this content audit, and that you're not just going to make changes without kind of consulting them, but you're making the decision together on which content can be removed and what needs to stay. And it's really helpful to get their take on why something is important and why it needs to be there, because in some cases we just don't really understand what it is because it is scientific information, or it's something, you know, just very specific to the agency that some of us, I've been at the agency for 2.5 years, and some of the others on my team haven't been there for quite as long as that either. So some things we just need to get a better understanding of from the SMEs to know what we need to do with it. Again, provide those metrics to them. That is so important. Don't do what I did, where I just started sending links, lists of URLs saying, you know, we should probably remove these, they're older, not very useful, without adding metrics in. They need to see the metrics. And you have to be able to be prepared to defend your recommendation that you're making to the SMEs, because, you know, some of them, they completely agree with you, they want to clean up the website as well, and others, there's going to be more of a back and forth. So be prepared to defend your recommendation. And I was in one of the content sessions yesterday, and there was some talk about how do you work with the SMEs on content writing best practices, how do you get them to use plain language and you know, follow the same voice consistently across the website. And I think that doing this content audit and just putting the feelers out there with them is a really good way to get those conversations started, because you're just getting started to look at all the content that's relevant to their area and then really pick it apart together. And then you can have those conversations of what do we need to do to this content specifically to make it more readable. That is not as far as we have gotten yet. We're really just looking at what needs to stay, what needs to go, and then eventually we will get to that point. So how do you pick which SMEs to work with? There's a million different ways you can go with this. This is what we have done at my agency. So it started with my supervisor, she went to her supervisor, and they said, okay, we are going to have the top level pick a few people from each office, each program area, and they will be kind of the representatives for the content audit of their office. So then my team will be sending them a spreadsheet every week, and then they are responsible for, in their office, to find the SMEs who are the most relevant to that piece of content to be able to review it for you. So we kind of had a point of contact in each office, and we sent it out that way. Oops, sorry. So this worked in some cases and didn't work as well in others. I think that it's better if you have people volunteer to help instead of being voluntold. So definitely look for volunteers if you can. So how many people are you going to have reviewing the website? Who? That was kind of picked for me, who was going to be reviewing. You need to train them. So I definitely learned the lesson of not sending a super long, extensive list of instructions on how this is going to go and why it's important, and this is what you need to do, and this is what we're going to do every week. It probably is a better idea to just have some sort of conference call, just get everyone to listen to you explain it, and then go from there. I think that maybe I sent, you know, for the sake of telling you my lessons learned, I think I sent emails that were maybe a little bit too lengthy, made it look a little bit too daunting, and, you know, nobody wants to read. That's the point of doing the content audit in the first place, is paring down the lengthy pages. So try to make it as simple as you can for the SMEs. Try to set deadlines as well. I told you this has been going on for 2 years, and it's gone where we've been working on it a lot more, and then it'll kind of slow down a little bit, and then we'll pair it up again. So originally we had thought we can get a chunk of content done every week for each program area, and of course, you know, it was ambitious. We're still working on it, but it hasn't gone quite that quickly. With some SMEs, you will send them the spreadsheet and they'll send it right back to you that same day, full of comments and their recommendations and delete this, keep this, and that is amazing. Other ones you really have to keep following up, and maybe they're not really clear on what they need to do. So it's kind of a lot of chasing around that comes with it as well. Again, you got to defend and justify your recommendations.
Just clarify the process of identifying the SME, because I think from us, it's the critical step is to get to, how to get to the right person where there is some accountability there. So you said there was a supervisor that contacted the section manager, and that person delegated or designated to you?
Yeah, so we had it start from the top. So upper management went, you know, it went down the ladder that way to where the supervisors, at the supervisor level, they would pick someone on their staff who, you know, maybe just had the time to be able to do it. And they said, for our office, you will be the person that's going to be responsible for receiving the spreadsheets every week. And then you have to go out throughout your office and find who the experts are for these pages and have them review it. So there was a designated point of contact for each office. Yes?
Did it put some step of accountability within the office at the upper management, meaning who the SME report or somebody reporting back to them as to the status of the effort or not?
So I think the only one really keeping track of the status was us, the web content managers. So it is a little challenging, but the fact that they were assigned that duty from upper management does give us more weight in being able to get them to fill it out for us. Something that's really important too is if you have a subject matter expert who is the content provider routinely, they should be the one that you're going to for that piece of content. And it's very possible that in some cases, maybe that content didn't actually go to the right person. So that's definitely a challenge when you're in a really large agency dealing with 9,000 pieces of content, is making sure it gets to the right person. Thank you. Yeah?
So for metrics, did you just use page views, or did you have other metrics that you needed to help justify decisions in some cases?
So once we started adding metrics, we really just went with page views unless the SME came back and they had more questions or wanted to get more of a deep dive into it. And I think it's really mostly for the sake of time that there's 9,000 pages. Let's throw the page views on there and start with that at least. So yeah, I have seen other spreadsheets where it has a very extensive list of other types of metrics, which is great. That's very informative. So if you have the time and the resources to do that, you should definitely do that. Just as a baseline, we started with page views. So speaking of training the SMEs, this is more or less the process that I established with them. So every week, I would send a short list of URLs to that point of contact. And it would already have the recommendations in there for each piece of content that we came up with. It would have the metrics, and we send that to them. Then they need to locate the SME to actually dig in and review the content. So once that gets to the SME then needs to actually open up each page. They need to review the content, make sure it's still up to date, accurate, make sure there aren't broken links. We can check for broken links, obviously, as the web managers, but in some cases when it's linking to maybe to a scientific publication and then that link is broken, we don't really know what it should be linking to. So we want the SME to make sure it goes to the correct information. So we have them review for broken links as well, and then mark if they want to keep it, rewrite it, consolidate it, or delete it. And then ideally, they will return back to us the completed spreadsheet at the end of the week. And That almost never happens. I mean, there's so much back and forth. Almost never. Yeah?
Sorry. One thing occurs to me as I listen to this really involved process, right?
Yes.
It's very time consuming. So the question I have is that what we are identifying, and this is what is there, and how to handle what is there. But there is not the gap analysis of where we want to go ought to be there at the end of this whole process. Is not part of the decision making about what to do with the content that is found. And it seems that if there was a way to have those two processes that are a little bit concurrent, a lot of that work can be eliminated. So you don't have to do a rewrite or whatever because you already decided that it doesn't fit the future vision of what.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree.
I struggle with that. I mean, I can see that when you go down one road, you're following this road.
Yeah.
At some point, there is a convergence.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just kind of like how much time do we want to spend on each section, because you absolutely should be doing that. And I think that part of our hope is that, at least for now, getting ready to redesign the website is we know that we're going to be able to cut down a lot of URLs that we don't need to migrate over, and we are definitely going to be having those conversations as well, doing kind of a gap analysis. So yeah, definitely agree. And you know, at least from doing this so far, we have the doors open with the subject matter experts so that they know what is going on, and when we come back and try to work on adding more content with them as far as what information is missing, they'll be a little bit more aware. So yes. So the SME reviews everything, accuracy, relevancy, up to date. They review all of the images. We have a lot of old images on the site, broken links, videos, and any type of content that is on the page. So this process goes on and on and on, just like shampoo, wash, rinse, repeat. So we compile the URLs, pull the metrics, write recommendations, send it to the SME, and there should actually be another circle in there where we send it to the SME and then it comes back to us a couple times. We have a lot of conversations and hopefully come to some determination and then have a finalized plan. So that's really been what our content audit has been, is just coming up with a plan of what we're going to do with the content, and we haven't been going in and archiving or removing anything so far. So someone touched on this a little bit earlier. Are you not just having like a cutoff date for some of the content and say we're reviewing everything that's within the past couple of years? But so with some of the pieces of content, I wouldn't even put together a spreadsheet for the person I was sending it to. For recalls, for example, I'm not going to put together a spreadsheet that has thousands of URLs and say, please mark what you would like to do with each one. So I would just put together that little tiny blurb after having had a conversation with them about what the content audit is, and I would say, okay, for our constituent newsletters that you are the, you know, kind of the content owner of, we have them currently on the website from 2001 to the present. That's 19 years. Is that really necessary? We have 1,300 URLs. So how many can we remove? And how many years do we want to continue to keep moving forward? So what is going to be our retention time moving forward so we don't need to keep doing this content audit every couple of years? So luckily they're this particular subject matter expert was very on board with this, and they said, okay, perfect. We are only going to keep the current year plus the past 2 years, and we can cut off the rest. And I love that. It's so simple. It's a quick conversation. No need to go through the spreadsheet. They didn't even request metrics. It's just an agency decision. And the same with recalls. As I said, we have them 1994 to the present, 21 years. So we decided that we would keep 5 years of recalls. This is not up to date on the site. This is just our future plan. And then just so you can see kind of what the web pages currently look like, they're just very long and scrolling because we have so many of the newsletters and the recalls. Mm-hmm.
So this information probably isn't lost to time either. Do you have a departmental library or institutional repository that actually keeps this stuff?
Right.
So you're just duplicating.
Exactly. So yes, I'm going to talk about records management a little bit in a second. But yeah, absolutely. So kind of for our tracking in the web team, we wanted to be able to track how many of these spreadsheets that were getting returned to us, how many of the pages are being marked as plan on deleting, consolidating, keeping, rewriting, other, and just how many have been reviewed overall. So this is a slightly current portion of our tracking sheet. So out of the almost 9,000 URLs, we've reviewed about 4,000. But of the pages that have been reviewed so far, we're deleting almost 3,600. So I feel like that's pretty exciting that we're making progress and reviewing, and it's kind of easy to cut off the ones that we know we're going to delete so far. But so this has been really good for us as a web team to show to our supervisors kind of where we are with the content audit. Okay. We were talking about records management. So something really important to explain to the SMEs is that, according to at least our records management representative for my office, is that the version of any document or any page that is on the website is not the official copy. It is not, the server is not a records management tool. So essentially, the content owner, they are the ones that need to officially be following records management practices. And I'm not really sure if this varies agency by agency, but at least in my agency, we would say if we're going to be archiving this content, really it's going to be your office that's going to need to make sure you're archiving the official copy. If we get FOIA requests for this, it's going to end up coming to your office because you are the subject matter experts, you are the holders of the content. And I think that kind of an issue that comes with the website being used as the filing cabinet is that we end up, some people understand what I'm talking about. People end up coming to us for FOIA requests for things that we are not the SMEs on and we are not the holders of the official copy for. So definitely when talking to the SMEs, you need to explain, okay, so when we actually are going to be removing or just not migrating over your content onto a new website, you need to make sure you have the official copy. You are the ones that need to follow the appropriate procedures for archiving them. So they don't really like hearing that. Not all of them. Any questions on that?
How do you handle that, Matt?
Delicately.
Will I eventually store them somewhere else?
Yeah, I actually refer them to our records management representative because each type of content has a different disposition and different way to be handled, and I am not the SME on that. So I got in touch with the records management representative before I started reaching out to the SMEs and giving them this information, and she sent me some documents, official documents, which stated, I think exactly what I have written up there, that once documents are superseded or no longer needed for reference, they should be removed from the website with the official copy retained in its respective office. So I have that as my justification, and then if the SMEs have questions, I would refer them to our records management office, and they were completely aware of what was going on. So I'm sure that we'll continue to kind of have those conversations with them. Yeah?
I think that's really important because that is your role, you know, and I learned that in my role too, so that was, it's hard for them to hear, but it's so important for you to maintain your sanity.
Oh yeah.
That is not your issue. How they retain their records, that's their issue.
Well, and that'll set up good practices for the future too, if you get it established. Okay, so this kind of comes back to the identifying content gaps. We're not quite at this point yet. We're just not there yet. But in doing the content audit, you will identify which content needs to be created. So some ways to kind of identify which gaps there are or which new content needs to be created, look at common customer questions. If you have some sort of contact center or an email address where just customers, users can send in questions, obviously that's a great place to start and saying maybe we should just have this information up on the website. If you have FAQs listed anywhere on your website, you can, or if you have them in a knowledge base and you see which one gets the most hits, you probably want to make sure that that content is incorporated into your website. You can also just link to the knowledge base content, kind of whatever works best for your specific situation. Also, doing the content audit, it's kind of fun to find pieces of content that you can use to create a graphic or a video of and kind of repurpose that content in new ways. And if you need, to create new web content to fill pages, look for content that you've already created in other ways, like if you have brochures or other videos that you've created, infographics, things like that. And keep it simple. Keep it simple. So I kind of already gave you our content audit status, but so far we are planning on deleting, removing, archiving about 40% of the URLs that we have so far, and that's at least great for us at this point, because looking forward to migrating, at least we'll have that information to give to the contractors that we work with to know, get an estimate of what the cost will be. And we are going to continue to edit the content with our subject matter experts. Journey continues. I think this is a really good place to see if you guys have more questions, or if you have your own experiences or comments to share. I would really love to hear those. Okay, I think you were first.
So you mentioned deleting or handing off chunks of content for review. I could see a lot of different strategies there, so I'm wondering what you guys did. Like, did you start with page views, like, while they're fresh, get them on the really, frequently viewed stuff?
Oh, okay. I kind of went through like the navigation of our website, so I'd say, okay, here is a section on this specific method of inspection, as we are a food safety agency and we have food inspectors. So this very specific section, everything that relates to this kind of inspection, I'm going to hand that off to that subject matter expert. So there's a million different ways you could go about that, just based on how it's organized with this person knows everything about this topic. It may make the most sense to hand it off according to topic. But you could totally do that if you want to look at just the most popular pages and review those and update those. I mean, you could do that at the same time that the content's being reviewed by topic. So yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah?
Stand up just way back here. Just tell you that we've been kind of giggling a little bit because you've experienced and done so many things.
Yeah.
However, one of the things that I thought was interesting is that you're only taking page views, which we did like top pages, bottom pages, and stuff like that. When we just created a separate analytics report, are you going to follow up with the subject matter experts on like success measures over time to say, okay, you got rid of all of this stuff, we changed all of this stuff, this is where you were, this is where you are 6 or 12 months from now? Are you planning on going through that exercise?
Yeah, definitely. I think we have a lot more projects to come, and this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. So there's, especially if we're looking at a complete redesign, there's going to be so much more that we're going to do. So yeah, definitely. Okay, I think there was someone in the back first a while ago, but how about, I think.
Easy comment. We learned when we were doing our metrics, we had a lot of pages that had very low page views, but were statutory requirements. So we had to actually put a box there to let them know that you're probably going to have to rewrite it, but it is required even though these low views have it. So that was a very helpful box that we had.
You put that in a spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had the page views, but next to it, the check is a statutory requirement. It'd be on the site.
Yeah.
We actually did that too. Was it required, and if so, what is the requirement, where is it?
That's what we did.
Is it a business need, or is it just something that's decided in that business need? But having the public records requirements was really helpful.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And it's good to have them just still review that content, but it's got to stay. Yeah?
I was kind of curious for the pages that you're going to delete, whether it be for deletion or consolidating into another page, if you're leaving any kind of track for people that link to your site, because as a health department site, USDA is definitely one of the top sites we link to. When I see these, structures change or whatever, it's like, okay, is this content now completely gone? Or does it just need something else?
Yeah. Oh, that'll definitely be case by case, but just follow best practices for URL redirects or if it's like an old recall from the 90s, I would assume maybe you probably wouldn't be linking to it. So yeah, we'll just have to follow best practices and we definitely don't want to leave any information out or leave our users feeling confused. So case by case, really going to have to be careful with how we're going about deleting it. So that's good to keep in mind. Thank you. Yeah?
Did you have any tips on how to handle content that's generated during the audit process? And how are you finding yourself having to continuously rerun that inventory and manage that, make sure that's up to date?
Yeah, there's some content that maybe we reviewed at the beginning of this content audit, and then another SME comes in and there's something agency-wide that's a big priority and we have to just revamp it anyway. So then kind of that work that we did in the beginning is null. So you just kind of do it over. But then in that case, that is it being reviewed and redone. So, you know, if any of it were going to be deleted, then it's not getting updated. But yeah, that's something to take into consideration, is that things are going to change before you actually get to the end of the content audit.
Does that imagine like a freeze of the website isn't possible on a site that?
No, absolutely not.
Any website you can do something like that, where you can do this process quicker, but you said it's been like a good process, so I imagine a lot of content's being generated as or
Yeah. Yeah, definitely no freeze. So it's an ongoing process. Yeah.
If you're going to be doing you've had a website for 10 years, and you're going to do a redesign, would you recommend going through and deleting content, or taking content that you know you're going to port over, or just rewrite and start from scratch?
We did a rewrite. We didn't buy anything by way because it was already 10+ years old and nobody would ever revamp it. So we had, thankfully, the support of our mayor's communications team that headed it and said there will be no copying and pasting in the website. Everything is okay to do that. And it was worth the pain.
Yeah. It seems like it would be.
I'm struggling with that. We kind of put out that same directive. We're rewriting all of it. Don't copy and paste. And I laughed at the users that copied and pasted and said, I didn't. It's the same one. I had the opposite experience. We ended up not doing it completely right. That was 7 years ago, and I regretted it. So I would definitely recommend a rewrite. Or brand new content, starting from scratch almost. I wish the decision was made like that. It was a mistake.
It's good feedback. Yeah?
I was just going to say, in relation to the content, one of the things that we added to our audit was to help with rewrite of content. And also, as far as content that's changing, we locked out people from editing who were editing that portion of the website. But we addressed readability and quality of the writing. So that actually helped us with kind of rewriting the content of all those pages by trying to retarget the language to the 7th to 9th grade reading level, and also addressing our other primary language in Denver, which is Spanish, and making sure that complicated words were removed and that words translated properly into Spanish. So that actually helped with the rewrite of our content without planning a rewrite, but just being part of the audit.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how we got the buy-in from leadership to, like, at the moment, our SMEs are writing the content and they haven't been edited in a thoughtful way in the past. How do you get over that hump of helping them understand that SMEs and writers have to work together?
It's a very good question. I think developing a relationship individually with them is very helpful. It's hard to have that with, I don't know how many SMEs you have. We have a lot. I feel like I personally have that with a few. It's just really hard to have that with all of them and working that closely with all of them, but that's been the most helpful for me, is if I feel like you get to know each other and can work together, and then, you know, they kind of take advice easier, but that's the best I have. I don't know if other people have other advice on that. Yeah?
We have a quarterly meeting with all of the, we call ours content editors, and we meet quarterly, and we have trainings to discuss, you know, why we need to keep everything current. When we had to rewrite everything, I actually just this therapy for me, by the way, this conference. Going through the same thing. But I had a call from our planning department director, really upset that their department wasn't able to access their records back to 2006 on the website anymore. And it's kind of what you said, it's not, the website isn't your archive. You need to take care of that on your own, but they really want me to go to our old servers and bring them back up and pull all that data back to them so they can access it on the website. Anyway, it is painful, but if you have those, at least quarterly meetings with those content editors, it helps because you get to know them, they understand your pain points and what you have to do to stay current, and so that and then we did a city survey and asked for our constituents' comments on our website and shared that with all of them so they could see how awful the website was and how citizens really despised it. So that's what helps us. I mean, we're nowhere near anywhere near perfection, but it's getting better. It's been.
One strategy that I think paid off for our website was to build in a feedback form at the bottom of each page, and that the public can complete saying, is it helpful, was it not helpful, and if no, or yes, why. And that feedback was directly to the content owner of the page. And the idea is, so one, you get immediate feedback about what was working, what was not working, and an opportunity to fix it, and then you can manage your feedback. But that has been really invaluable, continuous feedback to the site. So in many ways, that way even in a content audit, if you can include, this is public feedback that goes exactly to this page in terms of what works and what doesn't work for them, really has informed the next iteration or just iterative changes to the page. So if, as you're doing the redesign, you're considering doing that, I thought it was a very effective strategy.
Yeah, the feedback is good.
Yeah, but because it goes at a specific page and a specific content on it, so it's not, it doesn't go into a big bucket. It goes to the people who manage the content on the particular page.
Well, if any of you want to do me a favor, since you're in Salt Lake City, our website is slc.gov. If you ever want to go look at it, and then the email at the bottom is to the webmaster, that's me. I am the web view. So please feel free to look at it and give me your comments. And if you ever go to that, have you ever been to that Wayback Machine? You can go look at slcgov.com because it was before we were .gov, we were slcgov.com, and you can look at what it was before. We changed over in 2017. So yeah, slc.gov. And I would love to get your feedback if you ever get a chance to look at it.
I'll take questions. Maybe time for me to pass out prizes, so maybe while you want to ask your question, I'll start kind of camping.
It's just a comment. One of our successful departments have a monthly meeting with the name like the PIO meeting, and that has a tendency to help
Are there any other questions? You guys want your prizes? Yeah.